One of the themes of your speaking around the world now is caregiving.
That's true.
You've learned an important lesson on the
Well,
other
we were
side.
caregivers for 7.5 years for an elderly relative. So, I know how to give. That's not the issue. But the new phase in my life is also being able to receive.
I wonder how important and timely this message is as things are shaking in our world. People in financial distress and just trouble and need. We all need to be stretched in the giving,
Absolutely,
helping one another, and in being willing to receive so that we can all make it.
That's right. And when you look at the New Testament, Paul speaks about the body. We read that all the time, but I think it's a very valuable principle that we need each other. And see, we live in this Western culture that says I'm self-sufficient.
Very individualistic.
Very, good word, very individualistic. And I think what we have to realize is we're not. We need each other.
Oh, let me be romantic just for a moment, because a great classic, and how appropriate that God would woo you through a book. The Magnificent Obsession. I think of the movie with Rock Hudson and Jane Wyman. It was actually Lloyd C. Douglas's book in a window of a store that hooked you. And when and why?
Okay, I was 22 years old. I was at this awful place in my life. I met this woman, wanted to marry her, spend the rest of my life with her, all that kind, and she dumped me.
Oh.
Yeah, and I realized I wasn't the only guy in the world, and but it did something to me, and it just threw me. I've never been depressed, really, but I think I was depressed then, and just down, and it's the first time I asked what we often call the existential questions. I thought, is this all there is to life? You're born, you die, and you have ups and downs in the middle. There's got to be more. And I hadn't been to church much. Probably went to church 20 times at most as a kid. Hadn't been inside a church for at least 10 years. So God wasn't a part of my life.
He didn't factor in.
No. But as I was walking by a used bookstore, in the window, they had a copy of a book called The Magnificent Obsession. I can't tell you why, except I just thought, wow, what a great title. I was always a reader. So I got the book, and in the book there's a Dr. Hudson who's killed in an accident right at the very beginning. And there's a Bobby Merrick who's also involved in the accident. He lives, the doctor dies. After Dr. Hudson's death, these people start coming and telling all the wonderful, selfless things he did, and he wouldn't let anybody talk about it. And the author said that this was based on the Sermon on the Mount, which meant nothing to me, except that I knew it was in the New Testament. So I thought, what would motivate a person to do that?
To be so giving and sacrificial.
Yeah, right. And not wanting anybody to tell about it. Mm-hmm. So I got a New Testament, started reading it. I went right past the Sermon on the Mount. I didn't get it. But one day I was sitting here reading, and I got to Romans 10:20, where Paul writes, I was quoting Isaiah, I was fond of those who sought not for me. And those words hit me, and I thought, that's me.
I'm not looking for God.
But I thought, you know what? I believe this. I mean, it just hit me. I didn't realize, but right then I knew I believed it. And I thought, wow, if I believe it, what do I do now? So I thought, well, I probably better start going to a church. So that's how I started.
And what wonderful bonus did you get almost at first visit?
No, it wasn't quite the first visit.
No?
I probably visited 8 or 9 churches, but I found a church that just suited me. And one night, it was a midweek service. I love to tell the story because there's a man sitting on the end holding a little baby, empty chair, this redheaded woman, and the seat empty, next to her was empty. Place was packed. I got that empty seat. At the end of the service, we started talking, and she offered me a ride. So I was in uniform, I was in the Navy, and if you had your uniform on, you could get a free ride. And that was just very common. So I got out the parking lot, and I said, well, where's your husband and baby? And she said, I'm not married. And I said, oh, really? And 2 of my other Navy buddies were with me. So I sat in front with her, we started talking, and I really liked this woman. So I said to her, why don't we take them back to the base, and you and I'll take you out for a Coke or something. So yeah, and you know, I never thought this would ever happen to me, but we talked, and I knew then that I wanted to marry this woman. And
was it 6 months later?
yes, but I said to her, you don't love me and I don't love you, but I just think you're the person for me. And if you're not willing to explore this, let's stop now. But if you're open to this, I'd like to start dating you. And she said, okay. And
wow.
Yeah, and it's been a wonderful love affair ever since.
You and your wife have had a magnificent adventure, really.
We have.
Missionaries in Kenya for 6 years. I think you stumbled into pastoring almost. You guest preached, and they said, we'd like you.
Yeah, I was in seminary.
Interrupted your education.
No, I kept the education going. But they had a policy that if you were a student, you couldn't be a full-time, you couldn't preach every Sunday. So I went to the president and I said, hey, I'm the top student in the class. If my grades go down, I'll quit. Give me a chance. And he said, oh, okay. So I was a part-time, it was a small church. I was the pastor there while I was a full-time student.
Where did the page turn in your own story and you embraced writing as a full-time career?
I finished seminary in 1970, and in 71, Charlie Shedd, the late Charlie Shedd's dead now, but he wrote a book called Letters to Kara and Letters to Philip. He came to me, came to Atlanta to hold a 10-week course on how to write. He was on a grant from the Eli Lilly Foundation to raise up 1,000 full-time writers. And by the way, later on I saw him and I said, how many of them are full-time writers? He said, you're the only one. But anyway, at the end of the 10 weeks, he flew in every Monday night and we took the course, we did some writing. He came to me and he said, you've got talent. He wrote me this wonderful letter and said, if you stay with us 25 years from now, I'll be able to say I knew you when. And he said,
with a vision.
Yeah, so he said, start a writing group. I didn't know what one was, but he said, start one. So I got 5 people together, 6 people. We started teaching each other to write. We called ourselves the Scribe Tribe. We went for 9 years, and 3 of us became full-time writers, and 2 or 3 became full-time editors. And we just taught each other how to write.
This is something. Tell me that one of the 111 books is your autobiography. I don't think that's happened, has it?
And it won't.
It won't?
No, I put pieces of myself in all my books. I just want people to, I want to be as transparent as I can, but I don't want to tell my story.
It's quite a story, and I want to encourage you watching to look for this name. Sometimes it's the only name, and, well, give me a good example here.
It's on there.
Okay, other times it's a little bit small, and it's at the top or somewhere else, but a man who says it's effortless, amazing to those of us.
Well, not quite effortless. I mean, it's work, but it flows.
Flows. And here is one of the latest projects, a series of mystery novels.
Yeah, I was at a writer's conference, and there was an editor standing there to me, and we were talking. She said, you know what I'd like to see you do? I'd like to see you write a cozy mystery. Now, a cozy mystery is kind of like Murder, She Wrote, where there's no violence in the book.
Too graphic.
Yeah, nothing graphic, and there's always a love story. Ooh. And I laughed, and I said, oh, I don't even read them. I'd read a few. She said, yeah, but you're a clever person. You can do it. Well, I loved the challenge. So I wrote one called Everybody Loved Roger Harden, and sent it to her, and they bought it, and then she left. Then the publisher said to me, we really like this. If you just give us a title, we'll give you a contract for a second one. That had never happened before, so I did. The third time, they came to me and they said, we'd like you to do a third one, and then when they're all out there, then we'll package them together and put it in one book and sell it at Target and Walmart. So that's what's happening.
Well, here's what to look for. If you're ready for a mystery with romance and not too graphic. Everybody loved Roger Harden. Everybody called her a saint. And everybody wanted room 623. I'm intrigued already, Cecil.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and letting us get to know the man behind so many treasures. 111, 5 still coming.
Right.
And who knows what after that. God bless you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Keep you prolific.
Thank you.